In class 6, we have learnt that fibers are long, strong and flexible thread-like structure. Natural fibers are obtained from plants and animals. Cotton and jute fibers are obtained from plants, whereas wool and silk fibers are obtained from animals. Nylon, terylene, rayon are some of the man-made or synthetic fibers. The clothes we wear are made from different kinds of fabric, made of different fibers. We know how to obtain cotton fibers from cotton plant. In this chapter, we will study how fibers are obtained from animals. Wool. We get wool from fur, hair of sheep, goat, yak, rabbit, camel, llama and alpaca. Cashmere goat. Pashmina wool is the finest wool obtained from the Kashmir goats found in the Kashmir region. Pashmina wool is woven or knitted into fine pashmina shawls and garments. Yak. Yak wool is soft wool obtained from the yaks found in the Ladakh region and Tibet. Yak wool is used to make sweaters, blankets, coats and hats. It is much warmer than sheep wool. Angora goat. Angora wool is a long, soft wool obtained from Angora goat found in the hilly regions such as Jammu and Kashmir. Camel. The fur, hair removed from the body of camels is also used as wool. The camel wool is extremely soft and fine and is used to make fabrics, coats and sweaters. Llama and alpaca. Llama and alpaca are found in South America, also yield wool. Sheep. Wool is most commonly obtained from sheep. The fine hair of the sheep provides the fibers for making wool. Rearing and breeding of sheep. Rearing of sheep means to look after the sheep by providing them feed, food, shelter and health care. Sheep are herbivores and prefer to eat grass and leaves. Apart from grazing grass, the sheep are also fed mixture of pulses, corn, jowar, oil cakes and minerals. In winter, sheep are kept indoors and fed on leaves, grain and dry fodder. Processing fibers into wool. Wool is obtained from the sheep by a long process which involves various steps. Let us study each step one by one. Step 1. Shearing. The fleece, coat of wool of sheep, along with a thin layer of skin, are peeled from the body of sheep. It is done manually with a large razor or with an electrically driven shearing machine. The process of removing hair from the body of a sheep is called shearing. Shearing does not hurt the sheep because the uppermost layer of the skin of sheep is dead. Step 2. Scouring. The fleece of sheep contains dust, dirt, sweat, vegetable matter and grease, etc. The fleece of sheep is thoroughly cleaned by washing with soap or detergent and a lot of water in a tank. The process of washing the fleece of sheep to remove dust, dirt, sweat and grease, etc. is called scouring. Nowadays, scouring is done by machines. Step 3. Sorting. After shearing, The wool is separated or sorted into various categories depending upon its quality. Only fleece of long, fine quality is sent to the factory for further processes. The inferior quality or broken pieces are pressed into wool packs and sold separately. The process of separating the long, fine quality fleece from the remaining inferior quality or broken pieces is called sorting. Step 4. Combing. The fleece is combed to remove the burrs, tiny knots. The fewer the burrs, the better the wool. The process of removing the burrs from the fleece is called combing. The fibers are straightened. Step 5. Dyeing. The natural fleece of sheep is black, brown or white in color. The fibers obtained after combing is dyed in various colors. Step 6. Spinning. The straightened fibers are spun or twisted together to make yarn. The wool yarn is then used to knit woolen fabrics, sweaters, etc. The quality of wool is judged on the basis of thickness, length, shine, strength, fineness of the fibers. Silk. Silk is a fine, strong, soft and shining fiber obtained from silkworms. It is separated from the cocoons of silkworms. Silk is the strongest natural fiber. The soft-looking silk yarn is as strong as a comparable thread of steel. Silk fibers are converted into silk yarn, which is used for making silk cloth. This silk cloth is then used for making saris and other dresses. The rearing of silkworms for obtaining silk is called sericulture. Before we discuss the process of obtaining silk, let us study the interesting life history of the silk moth. The female silk moth lays pale yellow eggs on the leaves of a tree. After a few days, the fertile live eggs turn grey. The eggs hatch in 2 weeks' time to form worm-like larvae. The larvae of silk moth are called caterpillar or silkworms. The silkworms fed on the leaves of mulberry tree and grow bigger in size. During the larval stage, the silkworms shed their skin 4 times while they grow. Silk is formed in liquid form in the 2 glands in the silkworm's head. When the silkworm is ready to enter the next stage of its development called pupa, each silkworm begins spinning a cocoon by moving its head in a figure 8 pattern. During these movements of head, the silkworm secretes silk in liquid form through the tiny opening in its head. Liquid silk is coated in sericin, a water-soluble protective gum, and solidifies on contact with the air and becomes silk fiber within 2 to 3 days. The silkworm covers itself completely by silk fiber. The silky covering spun by the silkworm for its protection is called cocoon. The cocoon is made by silkworm to protect its development as pupa. When the pupa encased in cocoon develops fully to form an adult silk moth, then the cocoon splits up and a beautiful silk moth comes out. Adult silk moth lives only for a few days and is unable to fly. In this way, the life history of silkworm is complete. Varieties of natural silk. The silk yarn thread is obtained from the cocoon of the silk moth. There is a variety of silk moths which look very different from one another, and the silk yarn thread they yield is different in texture: coarse, smooth, shiny, etc. Mulberry silk moth is the most common silk moth. The bulk of the world's silk supply comes from the mulberry silk moth. The silk fiber from the cocoon of this moth is soft, lustrous and elastic, and can be dyed in beautiful colors. Tusser silkworms mainly feed on arjun leaves to produce a tusser silk. Airy silkworms feed on castor leaves to produce a brick red silk called airy silk. Muga silkworms feed on som leaves to produce a lustrous golden yellow muga silk. Muga silkworms are found only in Assam and nowhere else in the world. From cocoon to silk. For obtaining silk, moths are reared and their cocoons are collected to get silk threads. Rearing silkworms. Rearing of silkworms means to look after the silkworms by providing them proper feed, food and shelter. In a silk farm, female silk moths are kept in separate linen bags, which are carefully disinfected. Each female silk moth lays 200 to 500 eggs at a time. The eggs are kept in perforated cardboard boxes or on bamboo trays under hygienic conditions and under suitable conditions of temperature and humidity. The eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature in an incubator for the larvae to hatch from eggs. A perforated sheet of paper is placed over the hatching box and chopped mulberry leaves are spread over it. When the larvae, the silkworms, hatch out of the eggs, they feed on mulberry leaves. They eat day and night and increase enormously in size. After 25 to 30 days, the silkworms stop eating and move to a tiny chamber of bamboo in the tray to spin cocoons. Small racks or twigs may be provided in the trays to which cocoons get attached. The silkworm completes its cocoon, which is about 4 centimeters long, in about 5 days by producing 600 to 1200 meters of thin silk fiber. During the period of spinning its cocoon, a silkworm is transformed into pupa. So, the cocoons are first boiled in hot water or treated in ovens to kill the pupa inside. If the larvae are not killed and allowed to grow, they will break the cocoon, thereby reducing the length of silk fiber. The hot water softens the silk gum sericin so as to allow the unwinding of silk fiber as one continuous thread. The process of taking out threads from the cocoon for use as silk is called reeling the silk. Reeling is done in special machines which unwind the fibers of silk from the cocoon. The fiber of the cocoon is too fine and delicate to handle. So many of them, 3 to 10 fine filaments, are reeled together to yield a stronger thread called raw silk. The damaged or waste cocoons are used to produce an inferior quality silk called spun silk. The raw silk prepared is twisted to produce thrown silk. The process is called throwing. This prevents the silk from splitting into individual fibers. Thrown silk is dyed for making colored fabric. The dyed silk fibers spun into silk threads are now woven into silk cloth by weavers. So, let us summarize the whole process of obtaining silk from silk moth.